Welcome back to Country Tough with Brandy Von Holten. I have someone here. His first name is Colton. Now, his last name is Kiso. Now, how do you say that?
Kiso.
Kiso. Okay, so it sounds like Keyso, Kiso, but it's Kiso. Now then, so funny thing is his mom kept on tagging him in my Facebook post. So then I was curious, and I was like, who is this person? Because a lot of women don't tag men in stuff. So I was like, well, let me look who it was. Well, then it turns out that I found this amazing custom knife maker. And he's even been on a TV show in 2019. And then he lives in a town of, what do you live in?
The shop's located in Nelson is the address, but it's in the middle of nowhere, just like here, this ranch.
Yep, Von Holten Ranch is in the middle of nowhere for sure. We're in a town called Mora. Mora doesn't even have a post office. So Nelson, that's close to Blackwater?
Yeah, Blackwater. It's probably about 20 minutes from Marshall, south.
Okay, so he's not very far from me, but yet here we are living these completely different lives, but we're not even 35, 40 minutes from each other. So, all right, so let's talk to them about these knives that you make. So how long have you use a forge?
Yeah, I forge every knife that I make. I focus exclusively on forging all of my knives. A lot of knives you see that are handmade, they're cut out with a torch or a plasma cutter, but I forge everything. And here lately I've been forging them out of railroad track. I've talked to some people who are good with metal and know what kind of metal each thing is, and they say it's good for knives, so I've been using it, and it done a lot of testing, works good.
Yeah, they don't, have you found them to be stronger? Like maybe they don't break as easily?
Yeah, this steel that I'm using, the railroad track, it's called 1080 steel is the classification number of it. And it's been better than anything I've used so far.
So what got you into knife making?
I'm a deer hunter, and I needed a good hunting knife. I was 10 years old, hard to believe, but I decided I just wanted to make a knife, and I did. And then my friend wanted one, and then his friend wanted one, and then before you know it, I had people that I didn't know wanting knives. And by the time I graduated high school, I had a year-long waiting list, and it just blew up from there, really. I'm overwhelmed with how many people want these knives. It's really just mind-blowing that just all over the world.
So have you shipped your knives to out of the United States yet?
I haven't shipped them out of North America, but I have shipped one to Canada. There's a lot of interest around the world, but I just can't ship overseas because of customs. I worry about that type of thing.
Well, I do mounted archery here, so you know how long it takes for me to get a weapon sent in from another country, because we import our bows because it's very specific for our sport. Okay, but then all of my equipment that's for mounted archery is USA made. It's actually made in Missouri. So, no, there are issues with shipping weapons.
Yeah.
And not just like a gun or anything like that, but you would have a knife and I have a bow. And and I'm like, it's not going to hurt you until it's strung. I was like, let this come on in easier than what it is, but it still takes forever.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's just too much of a problem, really, right now. But once I get into making a little bit more high-end stuff, more money, then it's going to become more feasible. But for right now, for a knife under $1,000, it's just not hardly feasible by the time you pay the shipping. So that's why it hasn't worked out yet. But
okay, so does your dad also do a forge?
No, I picked up all this on my own. My dad's in the military. And he's a diesel mechanic, so he knows a little bit about workshop stuff, but I picked all this up on my own.
Well, neither one of my parents are archers. And then I've been on several covers of magazines from doing mounted archery. I'm an oddity because I do it from a Missouri foxtrotter. So that oddity has been welcoming to people because I don't fit into a box. And so, and also, my family, my dad and my mom, they were row croppers, and then my dad had a semi-trucking company, so where he was moving things. But the stuff that I do now with designing websites and marketing, my parents didn't know how to do any of that. I'm first generation archer. I'm most definitely first generation mounted archer, first generation for owning a multifaceted facility. I'm the first person in my family to go to college, first person to have a trademark. There's a lot to be said about people that try to do something on their own. You don't have to follow into footsteps, especially whenever you have like a calling to something. And it sounds like whenever I looked at your knives, I was like, oh my, they're so beautiful. I've never seen a knife in person that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I mean, like I'm getting tongue-tied in my words because I don't get excited about knives, but then I do get excited about custom, and I do get excited about oddities and beauty. And then I'm like, man, I've never been all about knives because it's been inconvenient for me because I'm larger. But then you have developed a knife holder that allows it to run along with the belt. So talk to us about that. I mean, so it makes it easier for me, or I can put it into my boot. So I'm pumped about your knife. So talk to us about that sheath.
So to start, for the last 13 years, I'm 23 now, and I've been making knives since I was 10. So for the last 13 years, I've been designing different styles of knives and trying different ideas. And here in the last probably 6 months, I've really started to try and hone in on one design, and I call it the model that I've been trying to work on. It's called the Tadpole. My business name is Heath Creek Forge, and I kind of wanted something to go along with Heath Creek. So me and a collector of mine come up with the name Tadpole. And so I made a knife, made the Tadpole, and I wore it, the original one, and tested it to see how I liked it. So I made it in horizontal carries so that it doesn't get into your belly. And I'd done this on a few other knives in the past, and I liked it, so I thought I'll incorporate that on this knife because I want this knife to be carried every day. So when I'd done that, I tested it, and it worked great. And so I brought that to the public, put it on my website, and people have been trying it, and they love it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it was really inviting to me because I want to have a custom pair of suspenders, and the only real estate that I have on my body where this belly doesn't get in the way is right underneath my boob, and I'm just like, I think I want to try to attach that right there because plus it's going to be easy for me to get my hand onto. We own Von Holten Ranch. It's a horse trail riding facility. Well, I see things happen, and so many people, man, if they have something in their pocket, they can't get a hold of it. I really like having the knife where it's not just in your pocket, it's accessible. And I had one cowboy, his name is Tinker Turner, and Tinker had told me about how he always carried his knife on the outside. Well, now he carries two because one time he got pinned and he couldn't get his knife from the outside. So literally, I want to have two knives, one on each side of me, so I'm able to get my hands onto them because it's just it's a safety thing.
Yeah, get to it with both hands.
Well, great. Yeah, because if one is pinned, you're going to be SOL, shoot out of luck.
Yeah.
So talk to us about this TV show that you were on in 2019.
So I was on a TV show. It's called Forged in Fire. It's on the History Channel. I was on there in 2019, and I was fresh out of high school. I think I'd been out of high school 3 months. And that was quite the journey. I had to go to New York City. I flew into LaGuardia Airport, and I had my nicest button-up shirt on and my my nicest jeans and my cowboy boots on, and I got off the plane, and there was all kinds of people there, and that was not my thing. And I knew right then that it wasn't necessarily a mistake, but there was going to be a lot of learning going on. I was going to figure out a lot of new things.
Oh,
and,
man.
I was having some regrets.
Oh.
I was wanting to get back on the plane. But I went ahead and done it. And I was there for 4 days. And they ran me pretty hard for those 4 days. I couldn't sleep at night because cars driving by the hotel honking. They wouldn't stop. So I could just sleep for a little while. I'm used
You're used to silence.
Yeah, I'm used to the country where I can go to sleep and in peace. But,
so you made it to the finals, and they wanted you to be able to build in your own forge, correct? Yeah. So how fast was that? Was it a couple of months from the time that so tell us about that.
So I spent 4 days in New York City, and I figured out that I had made it into the final round. And then in the final round, they tell us that we need to go home to our home shop and make, in this particular episode, it was a 30-inch broadsword. And I'm not really into swords. I like making utilitarian tools and some sort of art, but I'm not into swords. But I was going to do it anyways. And so that I left at 4 days. After 4 days in New York, I got to the airport on the 5th day, flew home, traveled the whole day on the 5th day, and I went to sleep that night. And the 6th day, that morning, I woke up and they were knocking on the door ready to start filming. So I filmed for 4 days in the August heat right after I got back from New York City and traveled. And it was the most exhausting thing that I've ever been through. It was wild. So I got the sword done, and it wasn't what I wanted, but I made a sword in 4 days. Normally it takes more than 4 days to make a knife. So it was pretty good for what I'd done in that time.
Right.
And the day after I got the sword done, I got it done, and I had a little bit of that day left to rest. Went to sleep, got up the next morning, and they had the plane scheduled for that day. I got back on the plane, and I went back out to New York City, where we filmed the testing of the weapon and all the rest of it. And that took 2 days. And then I got on the plane and come back home, and I rested for a week or so.
Okay, so yeah, people don't realize how those TV shows work, you know? They don't realize that you've got to come home and build this like crazy weapon that you would typically take longer to build, and then you're like under time crunches. You know, I always wondered about that. I know with our facility, we had 8 buildings on our property, and the last one is still up, and we had gotten contacted about being on, you can't turn that into a house. There's so much detail behind it. And then we're going to be on a TV show called Best of America by Horseback. So people just don't realize, like, you would just think it's like, oh, they're going to follow me around. Yeah. No, there's so much more to it behind the scenes. Yeah. So New York, did you get to try any crazy food?
No, it was basically just all about Forged in Fire. I mean, they were just on me the whole time. They were utilizing all of that time. And you would think the show was like an hour long with commercials, like 40 minutes total. But I was there for 4 days. This was like I think it was anywhere from 10 to 14 days. I can't remember total. But we were going at it hard trying to get this filmed. And all that time and effort condensed down into 40 minutes. I just thought like that was a long time for 40 minutes.
Yeah, that is a long time, but I guess, that's a cool TV show. My husband, a while ago, whenever I was like, hey, he was on that show, and my husband's like, whoa, like, for you to impress him, that takes a lot. My husband's a pretty calm guy. He wants to be out here and just work by himself, and it sounds like you just want to make knives.
That's all I want to do. I don't want to get rich. I just want to make knives and just provide for my family. That's all I really care about.
Yeah. And so you and your dad, y'all have a hay service also?
Yeah, me and Dad have a hay baling business, and that we started up once I graduated. I'm still mainly focused and was focused on making knives, but we have a few animals, and we needed hay, and we couldn't really find the quality and for the price that we wanted, so we started a hay business, and now that's taking up about 3 months out of the year. I bale up about 10,000 square bales with Dad, and we've got equipment over here and there, scrounged it up, and that's really turned into quite the deal as well.
Yeah, well, this year there's a hay shortage, so I bet y'all are going to be able to get more for your bales of hay because there's just a shortage for a lot of people.
Yeah, we're hoping so. Everything's getting so expensive. The used equipment market is getting out of this world expensive. The small farmer is there really hurting right now. The small farmer is.
Yeah. Well, the horse industry is different, because people used to rely upon horses, and now we're a hobby. But then we're not a hobby for everybody. I mean, there's legit freaking cowboys and cowgirls out there, but a lot of people don't have to have a horse, but they want a horse. And so I have found a business with helping people that, first generation cowgirls and cowboys, and learning, because a lot of those people are being taken advantage of.
Oh, yeah.
So I've found a place for them to be safe here and to be able to gain knowledge without being hurt. And then I have so many connections I can help them out with, make sure they get a nice saddle that fits their horse and fits them, or mule or whatever. But there's so many people that live in town and they don't realize where their food comes from. They don't understand this cowboy way of life.
Yeah.
And they don't understand how to be able to take a piece of the old railroad and turn it into a knife. And your knives are so beautiful. I cannot. So if I want people to see some of his beauty, so he has a website, and it's Heath Creek Forge, Forge, but it's Heath Creek Forge. And if you go there, you'll be able to look at some of his knives, but you'll also be able to see how in demand he is. And because a lot of those things say sold out. And man, so talk to us about some of your knives with the different handles. So talk to us about how you can put different handles on there.
The handle options are just endless. I mean, you can do anything. I've made knives with burlap that's been stacked up and epoxied together. I've made knives with 2,000-year-old walrus ivory handles. The options are endless. Mm-hmm. But one of my favorites is a material called micarta, and it's actually used in electricity insulation, like paneling where your breakers are,
mm-hmm.
The on-off switch. They put it in there to keep the electricity. I'm not exactly sure what.
So it's like an insulator of some sort?
Yeah, to keep the electricity from jumping. But anyway, it makes a beautiful knife handle, and it's very durable. It's one of my favorites. It's what I carry. I have a knife that I carry with micarta handle on it. Just indestructible. Makes a great knife. And my goal is to make a great knife, something that someone can use and not, they don't have to maintain it all the time. And that's why I like it so much. But I do love doing the more artistic mm-hmm. knives as well. One of my favorites also is the walrus ivory, but that's just on another end of the spectrum. Walrus ivory handle might go for, just to buy the ivory might go for $450.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I use micarta, it might be $2.
Right. So, I mean, if it gets the job done, a lot of people think that more money means a better product, and it's not always that case,
No. It might be a better product for what they're looking for. If they're looking for the most fancy show knife that they can get, ivory might be best. But if they're going to buy that knife and they're going to wear it every day for the next 20 years, mm-hmm. they're going to be disappointed with ivory. They'd rather have that $2 handle on there.
Right. And you know what? Talking about what you want people to have, and you're wanting people to have a nice working knife that's going to be able to handle the workload. And, with mounted archery, I mean, I know we're just having this conversation about the weird things that we do in our life, but my goal with that is to have people find something that's different, and and they're all included into it. I mean, you can be missing a finger, you can be large, you can be little, you can be whatever. I have several archers in their 70s. I can't wait to have my first archer in their 80s, but I know it's going to happen if I keep my archers in their 70s. But I want to have people be able to defend themselves or hunt on an animal that, it's not loud like a gun. It's going to be a silent, like it doesn't give up my position.
Right.
And I'm a little bit of a weirdo. I believe that there's going to be a civil war in my lifetime. And I like having that edge. It helps me sleep at nighttime knowing that I have a useful skill.
Right.
And I have useful materials. And that's the same thing with these knives. You know how many people have no idea how to do what you're doing, and then you're doing it with such beauty and class. And the fact that you're 23 and you have 13 years of experience, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, people don't normally believe me. They don't. They just walk away. If I'm at a show or something and demonstrating blacksmithing, they dismiss you. Yeah.
In the horse industry, a lot of the younger horse trainers get dismissed. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't do that. I started, I did professional fighting before I did all of this other stuff with the ranch and went to school to be a teacher. Well, I didn't go to school to be a teacher, but I mean, I started fighting at the age of 11. Okay, so you got a year on me, right?
Yeah.
But I started at the age of 11, so I fought until I was 33. So that is so much experience. Like, people don't realize, how much experience someone that's younger can actually have,
right.
Especially if they develop themselves,
Yeah.
Or if you're doing more and more practicing, or the more that you're doing it, I mean, you might be putting in an hour a day. But if you're really passionate about it, you might be putting in 2 hours a day. And then over that time, I mean, you can have a ton of experience and be younger. So
yeah, it worked out perfect being younger, in my opinion, because I could go to school and then I could come home and work on my craft after school. I didn't have to pay anything for the tuition. I just learned as I went along.
Right.
And that's what appealed to me. And then once I got out of school, I didn't have to go to college or anything like that. I already had a skill that I had been training for years to figure out. I didn't have to go through all that college.
Well, and you know what? I went the college route, and I think if I got to choose if I redid it or not, I don't think I would do as much as I did. And I think I would have most definitely took some marketing classes. I would have learned how to speak. I can still learn how to speak Spanish, but I wish I had a minor in I don't know. I wish I would have changed things up. I mean, I'm still paying all my college degrees. They're getting really close to me being able to pay them off, but man, that was just shoved down my throat. I'm 20 some odd years older. I'm 21 years older than you. Yeah. Oh my gosh. How did the heck did that happen? I forget because I didn't have kids. I'm like, wow, I could have been your parent. But it was just shoved down my throat that if you didn't go to college, then you were nothing.
You're gonna be a nobody.
You're gonna be digging ditches. That's
Yep.
what my parents always said. What are you gonna do? You gonna marry somebody? I'm like, what? And I'm like, or they would the world in general felt like it would degrade you. And now they've pushed so many people to go to college that a lot of them don't have the trade skills. Well, guess what? Now you've got knife builders, and you've got mounted archers, and you've got all these people that have these skill sets, and people don't have those skills. Before, man, back in the old days, you would have to be able to put your horse's shoe on their hoof, and you might have to be able to take a piece of metal and build that, and you would have to be able to clean your gun. You'd have to be able to hunt. You'd have to be able to preserve that food, or you wouldn't have any food in the winter. People don't know how to do anything now.
No. It's not going in a good direction, but what I can do to help that for myself is learn a craft. That's what I did. Learn a craft, and if you have a craft, anywhere you go in the world, or with any tools that you have, you can make something work with your craft. You have knowledge. Nobody can ever take that from you.
Right.
And that's why I decided to go that route. I'll always have the knowledge. And even the knife making, that's a craft that I've learned, and I'm really honing in on that. But there's so many other things that knife making has taught me. I learned how to heat treat, learned the basics of machining, learned how to weld. There's so many different things I could do if knife making somehow didn't work. So learn a craft, and you can just use it for all kinds of things.
Oh, yeah. Well, just like gardening and preserving your foods. I mean, that right there is useful knowledge, and a lot of people do not have that.
We've all got to eat.
Multiple times a day.
Yep.
So, here I am, and if you're listening to Country Tough with Brandy Von Holten, you probably know about a bunch of things that we do. We have this horse trail riding facility, and my husband is a wood guy. He's like, wow, you make knives. He's like, I've always wanted to make one. Well, then here's my husband, and you're blown away by everything that he's built because he's a wood guy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, I love our facility. So many people don't realize what they have, and I love that you realize that you have a trade. I realize that we have taken like this dead family farm, and now we're the 2024, we won Missouri's Best Ranch. Isn't that cool. Nuts? And you're listening to Missouri's Best Podcast right now. I mean, like, I didn't know how to podcast. I learned how to do this from somebody that owns a coffee shop. Right. I mean, like, but the fact that I'm still learning, and like, if people just apply the time, it doesn't have to be some big paid for college education. It can be a coffee shop person teaching you how to do something, or you can be a first generation knife maker, someone that's into forging. I'm always afraid that, is it called foraging? Because foraging is whenever you're finding foods that you can eat. So this right here is called blacksmithing, or do you call it? Okay.
Blacksmithing is what the old timers done. That's like iron gates and railings and fixing the latch on the barn. That's blacksmithing. What I do is bladesmithing. It focuses specifically on making bladed objects, whether it be a sword, an axe, anything. But that's what I do. I do some blacksmithing as well, but my business is mainly focused on bladesmithing.
Okay, that is a new word. You know that? Those fancy college degrees that I had, never had the word bladesmithing said to me. Yeah.
It's just a small subcategory of blacksmithing.
Yeah, but wow, what a useful subgroup of that. Yeah. So, something that I've got him here, and I called him up, and his mom had tagged him in my Facebook, and I called him. I was like, I want to meet you because we're wanting to start a clothing line, because we have a trademark on the term Country Tough, and I want to have like a subgroup of that, of like Big Boss Mare, and I'm like, I want to have him make me a custom line of knives, and there'll only be a limited number of them. And I think we're going to try to do some business together between the rancher that's I'm a former full contact fighter that's a mounted archer now that does business coaching, with the gentleman that learned how to do bladesmithing that's married to
She's a mortician.
Like, we're little weirdos. You know that, right? But we're pretty cool weirdos. Yeah. We would be good people to be friends with. If that Civil War that I think is going to happen, we would be really cool people to be friends with.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't know about my wife. She might.
She'll be busy. She'll be busy working if there's that Civil War.
You might not want to see her. And if you do see her, you're not in too good a shape.
No. So how long have you been married?
I've been married about 2 years now.
2 years now, okay. Yep. Did you meet her in high school?
Yeah, high school sweetheart. Yep.
High school. See, that stuff does work out for people. So What is her name?
Her name's Rachel.
Rachel? Yep. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Rachel and Colton, and I'm Brandy, and my husband's name is David. I always tell everybody that he is biblical and I'm whiskey.
Yeah. It's probably the opposite way for me and Rachel.
Oh, okay.
I'm probably more like
the calm.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, yeah, it would be the same way. Because Rachel's wild and I'm the calm one. So yeah, that's about the same.
Okay, so it is the same way.
You and Rachel would probably like each other because she is she's not afraid to tell you exactly what she's thinking.
Well, you know what? There's a lot of good qualities in that, but I will tell you, with being a female that is outspoken, people either love us or they hate us.
Yeah.
But the ones that love us like 3 times the amount. So we end up with more love than hate overall.
Well, the thing I like about it is you know where you stand. If Rachel's mad at me, I'm going to know it.
Oh my gosh, if I'm mad at my husband, he knows it. He is like, oh my gosh, you were so mad. And I'm like, I sure am. He doesn't have to guess. Yeah. So many people, there's like a failure to communicate within the relationship. There is no failure to communicate on my part. And then sometimes I'll have to pull it out of David because he's like, he's quieter and we're just opposites. But I've dated people before that was just like me. It doesn't work. It's better. And my husband is an amazing, amazing person. I don't overshadow him. Man, he built our facility, Von Holten Ranch, and then my job is to fill it. We're in completely 2 different lanes, just like you and your wife are in completely 2 different lanes.
It takes a lot of trust, though, on each of your all's parts, though, to, he's doing all this work, and he's got to trust you to get the people here.
Oh, yeah.
But you've got to trust him because you're getting the people here. Is he going to have that project done by the time? That takes a lot of trust. That's really something that's
it's commendable. Yeah. Well, yeah, we work well together. Yeah. We do work well together. Well, hey guys, I just wanted to introduce you to Colton because, it takes a lot to impress me. Because I've seen a lot, I've seen a lot, I've met a lot of people, and then here he is, and he's just like, I think the world of him, and you're going to get to see some of his stuff. I know he's so behind because there's a big need because it's that good. And if I take the time to meet somebody, because like right now, as soon as we get done with this podcast, I've got a list of things I've got to get done, but I wanted to make this relationship between he and I tell you, if I value someone and they blow me away, then they're going to knock your socks off, okay? So his website, again, is heathcreekforge.com. His name is Colton, and it's Kiso.
Yep.
All right. Well, there you go. Thanks for tuning in to Country Tough with Brandy Von Holten.